Hey guys, it's Nick and thanks for tuning in to Long Island Wargaming for my second 9th Age game that I'm going to be sharing with you guys. Instead of leaving a couple points for the end, I want to make one or two right up front here, just things that I've learned. I'm still kind of reading through the PDF for the rules and I'm getting to know the army books here and there, but there's three things I just want to throw out there for people who aren't really active on the forum or reading the 9th Age rules but are a Warhammer player, a previous subscriber of mine, and you're just trying to feel out the rules. But here it is. The first thing is cannons are fixed. This was my biggest thing in 8th edition. They're good. They're fixed. And you'll see that in this game since I'm playing against dwarves with my Ogre cons. So they're better. They're strength 5 after the initial point where it hits, which is really, really cool. My Ogre bulls, or my Ogre tribesmen, they get +1 initiative because the Iron Fists that they're using they have an extra attack that counts as an extra hand weapon. Extra hand weapons gain a +1 initiative. So they're running at initiative 3, which is actually pretty interesting. The last thing was war machines can move and shoot, which is actually really cool. So that's a new thing. There'll be a penalty, but they can move and shoot, which is really cool. So on to the game. If you're interested as to what I brought with my ogres, you can look at my previous video, or you could pause here and take a look. This is a 1500 point game, Ogre Cons versus the Dwarves, so pause here if you want to take a look at the Dwarf list. I must comment that there's 2 units of Greybeards and they both have throwing weapons, which is going to be an experiment in today's game. So we got 2 Runesmiths and a BSB on the Dwarf side for heroes. And for the Ogre side, or the Ogre Cons, I've got a level 3 Blood Shaman and a BSB Brawler. So for magic, I got the Zero spell, or the signature spell, which is Teeth Cracker. I also got Troll Heart and Giant's Gullet. So the +1 toughness spell is great, especially if it's casted on the caster's unit, and then the caster will have +2 toughness, so it'd be toughness 7, I believe, or 6. Regen's great. Do note that there is no longer an aura option, so it doesn't have a radius, and Giant Skull, it should be good at maybe killing a gyrocopter or maybe a few dwarves. We did roll, I forget what result this is, but this is the objective in the middle of the battlefield, so it's an extra 10% victory points, which would be 156 victory points if you have a scoring unit within 6 inches and it's not contested. We did use the book for deployment of terrain, so we have from left to right, top to bottom, impassable, a field, that's what the fences represent, ruins, and then a forest, and then the bottom we've got a building and another forest. So it is standard deployment. From left to right on the top, we've got the Longbeards in ranks of 7, and then another unit with ranks of 5, gyrocopter, organ gun, or open field gun, I believe it is, a cannon, and then another gyrocopter. Each have a flamethrower. From left to right on my side, I've got Saber Tusk, 4 cannoneers. I've got the tribesmen, and then I've got the ironclads, and then another Saber Tusk. The heroes are both in the larger unit with the tribesmen, for now at least. So Ryan won to pick sides, which means I get to pick who does the first deployment. I do go ahead and say that he will do the first deployment, in which case he puts down a gyrocopter, and then I do Saber Tusk and so on and so forth. But towards the end, he was able to deploy, I think, 2 to 3 units, which left me with 1 to 2 are left, so he got the modifier to go first, in which case he does. You can see there's limited movement because it's not only dwarves but it's Ryan, so we're in a corner. We've got the gyrocopters moving around and the war machines actually shuffling about. They can now move and shoot, so it's worth actually putting in your mind, where can I move this war machine and still shoot and have it be beneficial. Ryan gets to spell True Grit off, which is on one of his units. And then, I guess the 9th Age is pushing you away from artillery dice and scatter dice. So you roll 2 dice for the organ gun, or the open field machine, and he rolled 2 6s, which is essentially misfires. So a 1 would have been 2, 2 would have been 4, 3 would have been 6, it's multiples of 2, and then 6, there is no 12, so 6 is the misfire. So he rolls 2 misfire, which rarely ever happens with this war machine, so he actually doesn't get to shoot with his misfire. The cannon goes ahead and does a shot. It gets a direct hit at the point in which Ryan placed it. It does only a 1-inch scatter, so he only ends up, I believe, hitting 1 bull. which I'm happy with. And the bounce is, I believe, only D6, so the cannons are, they scatter, they could hit your own stuff if they scatter, which you'll see later in the game. But the fact that they scatter and only the strength 10 is on the spot where they initially hit, that's great. So his bounces were only strength 5, and if he didn't kill an entire ogre, then it didn't keep going. So cannons, I feel, are really strong. So you know what? Are really balanced now. So you know what? Losing just that one ironclad is fine. I'm 100% okay with that. Usually a cannon like that will just pull right through and kill 3 ogres. Because Ordnance now is D3 plus 1 wounds, it's not D6, so there's a lot less chance, or a lower chance of just plowing through monsters' infantry. So we move into my turn. Saber Tusks are moving ahead. I'm getting my infantry going as fast as possible. My Ogre infantry. I do get the +1 toughness spell off onto the Iron Guts, which are already a man down, so I want to try to keep them alive. And it's relevant because the cannon at strength 5 on a bounce is, might not actually kill an Ogre. It's a 50-50. So at this point we move back to Dwarf turn 2. You can see the gyrocopters are moving back a little bit, going to be used as redirectors later on. The War Machines again, I think he doesn't move them this time actually, but just getting into a position. He gets a spell off that does -1 to wound on one of his 2 infantry units, so that kind of discourages the lead belchers from shooting at them. The open field machine does only 1 wound to the middle Saber Tusk, which is excellent, so he's still alive. So the cannon goes ahead and it scatters, hits 1 or 2 guys. The only downside to the cannon now is there is a lot of potential, as in there's no longer a rule that says 1 model per rank. So if he actually gets a line up that goes through 5 of these guys, kind of zigzag from model to model, he can actually hit several of them. But again, he only wounds 1 guy, which is great because a cannon only netting 1 ogre a turn is, he's going to make his points back, but it's not as devastating as it used to be. He did kill that ogre outright, but for the second ogre, he rolled a 2, which is no longer wounding because strength 5 on toughness 4, doesn't count. So it used to be 2s would always wound with cannons on just about everything except a Tomb King Casket of Souls. So Ogre turn 2. I moved my BSB into the Iron Gut unit, which you can't actually see yet, but he does move, and I'm trying to screen the tribesmen from getting hit with a cannon shot because you still need to see the point in which you shoot at on the ground, so you can't really pick out the second unit as well, and the BSB does have an item that gives 5+ ward save versus artillery, so I'm going to kind of hope that the ironclads just kind of hold off the cannon shot in the next turn. You can see that the Saber Tusk does get a successful charge onto one of the gyrocopters. And like I said, the BSB switches to the other unit. Both units do have banners, I just don't have the models painted up, so that's why they're not there. But we do have the heroes in 2 different units now. And just come back to this picture, I want you to notice the ironclads do have an extra movement banner, but I don't move them up too far because I want to leave my options open and be able to charge the open field machine if I have to. Now, he can move 3 inches, so I had to not move up entirely because if he moved 3 inches out of range, I couldn't see him next turn for the charge, so I wanted to kind of leave my options open. You can also see that the gyrocopter, if I pin him there with the Saber Tusk and I get a charge off with the iron clad in my next turn, which is, not necessarily likely, but possible, I could get an overrun and hit the next gyrocopter, or if I remove that gyrocopter this turn, get a flank charge on the Longbeards, which is great planning, I think at least. But I do go ahead and get the toughness bubble off, but it's with double 6s, and then I get my extra little bonus plus how many dice I used and a miscast. So I lose my 4 remaining dice that I have due to just the miscast rules, and I'm no longer going to have that D6 strength 5 missile, the giant gullet, to use against the gyrocopter, because I really wanted to kill that second gyrocopter. But at least everyone's a +1 toughness at this turn, and my caster does take a wound, so I'm getting miscasts. The miscast does do a large template. I end up losing an entire tribesman, which is fine, I guess. It's better than losing my caster. The Saber Tusk and the gyrocopter don't really do anything, so they end up holding there. So we go on to Dwarf turn 3. We have a gyrocopter just kind of chaffing the ironclads. And that's it. There is some movement forward, actually. I believe he pulls his guys up to maybe throw some hand weapons, because these guys both have throwing weapons, both units of infantry. So that might be 12 inches now. The Saber Tusk hanging out by the field fence ends up getting killed by the open field machine, which honestly hasn't done much this game. Ballistic skill shooting is kind of up and down, and it hasn't done much. The War Machines have not really scared me this game yet. So you see the gyrocopter's nice and close. There was actually some consideration here on Ryan's behalf. The cannon, if it's scattered, he could actually kill his own gyrocopter. He ends up taking the risk, and if the War Machine doesn't move, from what I understand, the ballistic skill can actually sway back how far it scatters, so you can use your ballistic skill 3 to move it back. I think I have that right. If not, feel free to post that below. But he ends up killing another ironclad. The ward save ends up saving an additional one. The hero does actually end up getting hit, and we had to look up Lookout Sir, because I was going to have him do a Lookout Sir, but apparently there isn't Lookout Sir anymore. Again, if I'm wrong, post that below. But under characters, if they are within troop type of the same unit, then they are excused and the hits get distributed to the unit, as long as there's remaining models permitting to take the wounds. So the BSB does not die to the cannon, which would have been terrible. And then we go into Ogre turn, I believe 3. So you can see the Saber Tusk still fighting. You can see I charge the gyrocopter to the right. I do not charge with the cannoners. I do not. They are an inch away, and I will explain why in a moment. The tribesmen do make their charge in, which is wonderful. They are also at toughness +1, so when it comes to the counter shooting, they actually do alright. Ryan rolled really shitty. Now this is the point in the game, I'm going to take a break, when I see exactly what Ryan is up to, and it's mild bullshit, and this might be something that, you know, we'll bring to the 9th Age committees, but the throwing weapons are disgusting. They are range 12, strength of user, quick to fire, multiple shots too. So, right now, the Longbeards, or their 9th Age equivalent, is Ballistic Skill 4. These guys are Ballistic Skill 4, which is cool and crazy and interesting. So, this unit to the left, if I did charge them, and they are ranks of 7, so 7, 14, and then double that for double shots is 28. That's 28 shots with throwing weapons as a counter shot at Ballistic Skill 4, Strength 4. Now, yes, it's going to be getting charged at, and I guess maybe long range, or any of those variables. So odds are it's going to be 5 to hit, and then, you know, 4s to wound on T4, or 3s to wound on, or 3s to wound on T3. So it's just very interesting. So that can really ruin someone's day, these throwing weapons, and the fact that these infantry and corps are ballistic skill 4, not even crossbowmen or gunmen or ballistic skill 4. But anyway, there's a lot of potential there, and that's just something I kind of want to bring to everyone's attention. Let me know what you think. Am I overreacting? Is it strong? I mean, that's what Ryan was going for. Both of these units have the throwing weapons, so they can move up a little bit and then throw, and then odds are they'll get charged and then counter shoot. It's strong. It's a good combination on these guys in particular. Is 12 inches too long? Is that just right to get people using their throwing weapons again? Should these Longbeards have ballistic skill 4? I'm not sure. But anyway, moving forward, he did have a slowness rune on the unit I did charge with the tribesmen, but it didn't work because I ended up rolling like an 11 plus my 6-inch move, which is pretty awesome. For magic, I do go ahead and get off. The first spell I went for was Bubble Toughness, and he actually dispelled that, so I go for... he dispelled it with dice. He didn't use his scroll yet. And then I get regen off on the cannon guys. And the cannon guys, I got that with a miscast. So unfortunately, I miscast, which sucks. I really didn't want that. I really wanted the toughness spell to help the combat, but it worked out for Ryan. Now, the cannon guys, they are there to stop him from flank charging me. Okay? If I didn't move them up, I would have gotten flank charged in the future turn. Now, the one thing, looking back after we get further into this turn, is I can't expect none of my ogres to die, the tribesmen. So odds are I should have taken into consideration that I would just take the back left guy, and then he would no longer have line of sight. It doesn't look like that in this picture, but overhead shot, we checked the arc. He wouldn't have been able to see me or flank charge me the second one of my ogres died. All he has to do is 2 wounds. One of them already has a wound on him. So I didn't have to sacrifice this cannoner unit like I did. I probably could have sat back and spent a turn, you know, shooting or repositioning or backing up. So that was kind of a misplay on my behalf. But hey, you know what? I got 2 Ogre units going in. I should be alright, hopefully. So I kill nobody with impact hits with my Trizone. No one. These guys are going on initiative 3 because they're +1 because they have 2 hand weapons. You can see I already have 2 Ogres missing. Why? Because his initiative 3 guy has a breath weapon attack, which he goes ahead and does and kills 2 bulls right off the bat, which really, really sucks. And, you know, I kill a few dwarves in combat, and then my blood shaman will go. But once the unit has an opportunity to attack, I lose 3 more guys. Ryan rolled really, really well. And these guys are running hand weapon shield. The unit to the left has great weapons. The unit that I'm fighting right now is hand weapon shield. And the distracting special rule, if I think that's what it is, hand weapon and shield is -1 to hit. And it did him wonders. I needed 5s to hit him, which is not great with ogres. And I think hand weapon shield is phenomenal for that reason, because it makes these tough to kill dwarves even better. But my standard will end up crumbling because he's going to stay and die, and I end up getting just away by an inch. So you can see I'm running. At this point, this is actually the last picture I have of this game, because even if I get to the gyrocopter with the iron guts and, you know, blah 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 blah, I'm still dead. I'm not going to have a caster. He's got his buff spells, because dwarves have spells now, even though they're ruining stuff. But whether he charges me and runs me down, or just takes his 20 shots with throwing weapons from behind my caster's unit, it's done. And then the lead belchers are going to get charged, and they're going to be done. He doesn't even have to charge the lead belchers. He could probably sit there and throw his 28 axes, or whatever they are. So I'm not bitter about this loss. I just feel educated. I'm just very happy with the fact that I learned, you know, a little bit about war machines moving around and how cannons aren't as scary as they used to be. And the only real misplay I did here was the fact that I sacrificed the cannoneers. They didn't have to go up, because after I lost a guy or 2, there was going to be no line of sight to my flank. So maybe I could have done a little bit better there. But the last thing I have to say is magic. Because you can still scroll a spell pushed out with irresistible force, you can hold on to it to the very last moment of that pivotal time or pivotal spell and just dispose of it, which is crazy. It's really cool the way the magic phase goes up. So I'm not going to make this a magic phase rant right now. It's not a rant, it would be a discussion. But check it out. If you're only watching my battle reports but haven't checked out the 9th Age yet, just Google it, the 9th Age, check out the forums, check out the rules, everything's there. I'm probably going to step in and maybe get involved with the project, so I'm kind of working on that now to see, you know, what I can contribute. But the new magic system is great. The game, I think, is a step in the right direction. Hopefully everything pans out and the game gets some traction. But hey, I hope you guys enjoyed this Ogre Cons versus Dwarven Strongholds, or Dwarven Holds, or Dwarven Fortresses, whatever it is. And I hope to see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.